Welcome everyone to the brand new episode of Gyan from the Pelwan, one of our series of FinTech Ki Baat Dil Se. Today we have with us Chirant and Asif. Chirant is one of the co-founders of Discovery, while Asif leads the tech side of Discovery. So, why don't you guys give a quick introduction about yourself, Chirant, starting from you?
Okay, so hi Sagrika, hi Shreyas. Thanks so much for having us over, guys.
Hey, Shreya. Pleasure is all ours.
Thank you. So definitely will be fair amount of gyan. So I don't know about the Pehelwan bit, but will bear with us during as we kind of go through it. So for a quick introduction, one of the co-founders of Discovery. Discovery is the simplest way to think about us is an insurance in a box, where we bring everything required for insurance distribution to scale for our distribution partners. The insurance in a box constitutes the technology, which is a combination of the product APIs as well as the SaaS technology to manage multiple carriers, multiple insurance products, and multiple distribution channels all seamlessly in a single backend. Along with the insurance product itself, and then the compliance license kind of rolled into one, offered as the platform for anybody who wants to do insurance at scale. So we connect the dots between large-scale distributors and the supply side or the manufacturer side of the insurance industry. By being that one-stop shop for any enterprise company to offer insurance to their end users, whether the end users they consider their own employees or their own end customers. So that's a little bit about Discovery. Over to Asif for his introduction. Anything to add?
Thank you, Chirant. My name is Asif. I head of the technology piece at Discovery. What we are, in addition to what Chirant explained about what Discovery is, like what we are building is insurance as a platform to all of our customers here, right? So instead of like insurance as a solution, this is becoming a platform by itself, like where different parts of the ecosystem are able to use the different parts of this platform as they choose, right? Some of them are going to consume our APIs for the distribution. Some of them are going to consume our lead management system for managing their leads. The insurers, there are information directly sent to the insurer to get them like visibility into how the transactions are happening. So there are multiple pieces put together. This becomes like a platform of insurance where different customers, depending on what they need, like they configure this particular platform and use it to their particular needs. So that's what in a nutshell about Discovery from a technology point of view.
Thanks, Chirant. Thank you, Asif. So very interestingly, I am here in Himachal, and like we're running a boot camp out here, and one of the insurance players named Vibhisure. So we had Ravinder here in Himachal as well. He was at our place just yesterday. He was like, "यार कोई insurance की बात ही नहीं करता है। आप BNPL पे किए जा रहे हो, lending पे किए जा रहे हो, insurance कोई समझता नहीं है, बात नहीं करता है, right?" So we were like, "No, we are having a podcast, and I'm really excited about what we have in front of us." So Shreyas, if you'd like to have the first question.
Yeah, so before we start with the said topic of today, I just wanted to take a step back and Chirant, know from you what was the thought process that went into you starting up with Discovery. मतलब what led you to the thought process कि यार ये insurance की जो चीज़ है ये digitize करना पड़ेगा. Like there is a main problem here that we can solve. Like what was the thought process that led you there?
Yeah, so if you had probably asked this question about a year ago, you probably would have got a different answer. And in hindsight, everything is 2020. Our genesis of how we started and sort of where we are slightly different. How we started was, hey, how can we build some amazing software for this slow-moving giant of a space where there is no real one global winner, right, in InsurTech. So, it started off with that kind of thesis, and we kind of experimented along the way on the different sides. But very, very clearly, we knew that our strength is on the distribution distribution side, and we want to build sort of tech for there. Over a period of time, we realized that the gap in the market was really enterprise adoption, right? So we thought that there are two ways of scaling an insurance distribution business or insurtech business on the distribution side. One is you become a brand, like say a Policybazaar, or you become the force behind the brand, which is infrastructure. So the team's DNA, all five of us on the leadership side, Suvendu, Saurabh, who come from the industry, have multiple years of experience working between themselves across insurance companies, and doing a lot of innovation work from an insurance company perspective, to sort of Vidya and I, who come from outside the industry, looking at it from a fresh pair of lens and thinking about how can we reimagine discovery, and Asif to come and help connect the dots with his technology expertise, right? So when we kind of started coming together, we realized that look, there is this the entire space looks to us from an outside three layers, right? There is the underwriting layer, which is made up of mostly insurance companies, and there's a top layer, which is experience layer, which can be pretty much anyone. Anybody can should offer should be able to offer insurance, because by definition we believe in a future that insurance should be made just as simple as payments for enterprise adoption, and anybody should be able to offer insurance from an experience perspective. And sandwiched right between the two is the infrastructure layer, which connects the dots between underwriting and experience, and that's where Discovery operates, right? So we are essentially an insurance infrastructure platform, which brings, as I mentioned earlier as well, every component or every building block required for any distribution company, whether it is a bank or or a fintech or a broker or a wealth manager, which typically tend to have intermediary licenses, to all the new to insurance distribution as well, the health techs, the edu techs, the supply chain techs, any sort of any company that has a large consumer footprint to be able to offer insurance. So insurance is a push service and it's very price sensitive. So that means that you need to have volume, right? So as long as you have consumer scale and you have built consumer trust, we think that you don't need to be a brand here. We can be the force behind the brand and enable the brand to do end-to-end distribution in whichever manner they think behaves their end user base the best. So from that perspective, we have taken a lot of inspiration from, say, payment processors or payment gateways, who are essentially one-stop shops for accepting digital payments, right, for large medium enterprise alike. The thesis is that, hey, if you don't need to build your own payment gateway to start accepting digital payments, and you can just partner up with a payment gateway or a processor as an enterprise, why do you need to do that any differently on the insurance distribution side? So think of it almost like an insurance gateway, and not in terms of the product itself. Obviously, payments and some credit and some of these financial services are more pull-based financial services relative to insurance, which is more push-based. So there are multiple sort of nuances of it, but from an enterprise adoption perspective, why can't we make it just as simple? So that what is the question that continues to stay with us, on the back of which Asif and the team are writing some amazing industry-first software to be able to digitize trust the way we see it, one API at a time.
Superb. I'm more than interested to know about that when you are willing to talk about it. Having said that, moving on to essentially aligning with the industry players, insurance industry legacy, insurance industry players have been infamous for their slow movements and long tags. So how difficult or easy was it for you to align with majority of them and to digitize their APIs and bring it into your platform? And how did you deal with that?
Asif, you want to take that?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, you're right, Shreyas, when you say like the insurance company has not been up to speed with the technology and advancements elsewhere, like especially the fintech side, the rest of the segment has been like way ahead. So this multiple reasons, like one, it's a heavily regulated space. right? So there is a limited amount of flexibility that the insurance companies and the distributors have to move fast here, right? But then the insurance companies also like setting up in a legacy fashion. They have not been super speed in terms of catching up with this. But what I can say here is like we are at the right time, right? Where we are seeing improvements in both the angles, right? So the insurance companies has been like starting to move quickly on moving to digitization, newer way of distribution, etc. And this is also backed by the regulator being like more like cooperative in this sense, right? I mean, they are also willing to experiment. There has been like sandboxes and initiatives like that has been like pretty core to like the advancement in this space. So so there are definitely movements. So there are definitely things happening much better than what it used to be like, say, a year or two back. But there is still a lag, right? If you look at the legacy players, they are still in a catch-up game, but they are moving in that direction, right? So this is where the platform like ours, the efficiency the platform like ours brings into the whole ecosystem becomes like so key. Right. So here we are, in a way, we are also forcing this industry to think digital, move quickly into newer ways of reaching customers, etc. So so if you ask me, like, we are actually driving some of these things as we speak, right? So that's a very positive space for us to be, right? So we as a platform, we are actually pushing convenience over this regulations, right? But we have to be like compliant with the regulation at the same time. But there are like things that we are bringing in, like the AI-driven decisions, right? The targeting by looking at the data, right? And even like one of the biggest pain point is like going through the proposal form for any customer, right? So for a typical life insurance product, if you go and look at that, you will see like more than 100 questions to be answered by just one customer. I mean, in a new age world, right? I mean, so like how hard is for anyone to sit and like go through that whole questionnaire. But then there are like ways you can connect to multiple sources where you can get a lot of information, bring in and like make your experiences much more slicker, thinner, right? And there are ways like you can have eKYCs done in like with a single OTP, you are able to get a lot of information about the customer. And so all those things are getting experimented about the insurance API layer, right? So the key thing that drives this is definitely the API, right? Where the insurance companies have started moving into an API-based distribution, and platform like ours are able to build cool solutions using those APIs and augmenting other capabilities that with the technology pieces that we have built on top of that. Right.
So, I'd like to interrupt you here. I'm so sorry. When you spoke about integrating with the insurance companies using APIs, when you first approached these insurance companies, did they already have their APIs open, or did you have to convince them कि आप अपने API layer बनाओ and then we can integrate and we can do this, or you had to build your own connectors and figure out how to interface with their legacy database?
So they, in the recent times, they have built the APIs, most of them for sure, right? Some of them are still, but like whoever hasn't built the API, they are definitely building it right now. Right? But the capability of those APIs are not at par with the APIs that you see on the other financial segments that you see, right? That we are actually pushing them to get more and more capability embedded into their APIs so that we are able to build platforms about that.
Thanks, Asif. I think very interesting point there about the whole APIization and how the industry is slowly developing towards the movement. Wanted to understand from you on what role will the APIification play in insurance penetration? I mean, how will that give rise to new business models, since you guys are the first movers in the whole insurance API process? So a little bit on that side.
So API is the key for that, the reaching to the new segment of customers, everything, right? So the insurance companies being like the way they distribute, and they have certain channels that they operate through. So that is managed pretty well, right? But the newer segment of customers, newer ways of distribution is completely rode on top of the API infrastructure that is enabling this capability. Right now, there has been a lot of talk about the embedded insurances. Like now, insurance is getting embedded into multiple places. So if you buy a TV, for example, so you're also getting many times a protection along with it by like just ticking a button. If you are buying through an Amazon or a Flipkart, or even like just signing a small piece of paper when you're buying from a retailer. So how do we enable this, right? This is actually enabled purely by an API infrastructure. Right? So whenever one person clicks on that, the whole platform piece that, for example, Discovery built, right? That it's getting triggered, and then in real-time basis, we are collecting information, passing over to the insurance company, and generates that cover, like, and the certificate of insurance, collect further information if required, right? So the whole behind the scene process happens in the back of API, right? So the APIification is, if you ask me, the biggest piece that enables the whole distribution innovation on insurances as we speak.
Perfect, thanks. So while you were mentioning embedded finance, I think just before the podcast, when Shreyas and I were discussing about the topic, we came across something really, I mean, that was very curious part of us that was kind of exploring that. So when we talk about embedded finance, what I see is that when I book maybe an Ola ride or something like that, all I need to do is just one click and I get an insurance for the ride, right? Are we kind of decreasing the acknowledgement about the whole insurance as a product, since it's going all behind the scenes and there's already no awareness in the market, but it's going behind the scenes? So how do we see maybe 5-10 years down the line as embedded insurance as a product?
So I'll start answering the technology part of that, and then hand it over to Chiran, if that's okay, Chiran.
Please, absolutely.
So you rightly said that. So there is, when you book an Ola ride, you are getting covered by that. There is definitely a consent element and everything happening when you book the ride. You are getting that consent taken care of. So the regulations is definitely taken care of. There is no question about that, right? But at the same time, like I said earlier, the IRDA is also moving forward in this, like where they allow us to experiment with certain way of distribution, etc. So that's happening in the back, right? So the word embedded itself means to me something exactly that, right? So you are not taking insurance as a separate item, like so whatever that you're buying or whatever experience that you're having, that the insurance also gets bundled along with that. But it's just a part of what you take, right? It's like a mouse when you buy a computer. It's just a part, and you're buying it together, right? And the whole infrastructure enables us to be like that by not having to go through a different experience to buy insurance. Maybe Chiran, if you can add on to that.
Yeah, no, very complimentary thoughts. See, in fact, we think it's the opposite. If at all, embedded insurance is going to make a fundamental shift. It is going to, from a consumer behavior perspective, it is going to be for the positive, to increase awareness of insurance. Because look, it is not to do insurance without consent. Actually, you know what? Let's take a step back and try and understand what is embedded insurance, right? And building on what Asif mentioned. So, embedded insurance is optional or mandatory attachment of insurance against a core product or service. So, the customer is buying the core product and service. The insurance comes as a tag along with it, right? But together they make it complete. I think Asif's computer and mouse kind of an example was right, right on the money. It's that experience of insurance coming on the back of some other purchase, which is so seamless, is why it feels like the entire insurance purchase journey was embedded as part of the overall process, right? So that's embedded. And there are three distinct use cases of embedded insurance. One is an opt-in insurance use case or embedded insurance use case where, say, for an example, you are on one of the travel aggregator sites and you buy a flight insurance or a trip insurance on the back of purchasing a flight ticket, right? You opt in as a customer. Second is an opt out. For example, say at the point of buying a new car at the car dealership, you get your first year's kind of premium attached as part of the invoice, right? And then you can opt out of it and get an insurance product for it, for your car outside of it. So that's opt out, right? Third is completely invisible, where insurance typically you don't need consumer consent to tag along insurance as part of it, of all the purchase. So typically it is done for non-monetary reasons, so where either for increasing brand awareness, value-add service, brand loyalty, LNR, loyalty and rewards kind of use cases, insurance gets tagged along with some other purchase, invisibly, but gets covered regardless. For instance, you get multiple insurance products on the back of, say, a credit card or a debit card, right? So you don't necessarily, as a consumer, go and opt in or opt out. It's just there if you want to kind of use it. So those kind of, so the embedded means all three, right? Embedded, we feel fundamentally is very exciting overall. We are all in on embedded, and it is something that we fundamentally think can help with the overall market penetration and size of it. Because at the end of the day, if you can't sell a big shampoo bottle, you start selling sachets, right? So it is sachetizing that entire overall experience of buying insurance, which frankly speaking, nobody gets excited about. So when was the last time you got excited about buying insurance? Nobody, right? None. To cover a risk management product is typically a bad consumer experience in the sense that it is not something that the consumer looks forward to. But nevertheless, it is very need-based. It's extremely, nobody wants insurance, but everybody needs it, right? So to be able to go from, say, a want-based journey to a need-based journey, how do you do that? You do that when on the back of making it completely, the entire experience completely symbiotic, completely flexible, and with great consumer experience on the front end, while doing whatever it needs to do as part of overall risk mitigation and underwriting sort of capability on the back end, right? So that's our understanding of embedded insurance. And look, it has been called by multiple names in the past as well. For instance, on the bancassurance side, on the bank side, chances are that even 15-20 years ago, if you got a home loan from a bank, you got a home insurance product on the back of it, right? So this has been happening for, credit link insurance has been happening for, decades now, right? So, and there's nothing sort of, it was called, affinity group solutions and so on and so forth. But the thesis or the primary motivation remains the same: to be able to make the insurance purchase journey so simple and so contextual that it becomes a part of the overall purchase process, as simple as possible. So I hope that helps answer the question.
Definitely. That was really insightful, Shreyans. Thanks for that. Having spoken of embedded insurance and sachetization and APIification, the question that comes to me is, how do you think this specific APIification and sachetization actually help in penetration in the rural market when you look at it from a financial inclusion perspective? Because as of now, we are still trying to get them to digitize their cash flows and, disburse loans and get the right kind of data. So how will this entire moving forward in the technology from an insurance perspective help us essentially penetrate into the rural market and get them the right kind of health insurances or life insurances that they need. Because even in COVID times, I think awareness about an necessity of the insurance scheme must have increased in those areas, but still they wouldn't know how to get those insurances. कि ये जो BC वाला बंदा बैठता है business correspondent जिसके पास जाके करना है वो उनको I don't think they still understand that. So how do you think this will play a role in it? And how will Discovery at a large play a role in that?
Yeah, I'll just start off with a explanation, a little bit of a use case, and request Ask to come in and help us go deeper on the technology side behind it as well. So insurance for Bharat and sort of our rural markets is extremely important because we are a very underpenetrated country overall, right? As far as insurance is concerned, for the second most populous country in the world, we are only 2% of the global insurance market size, but we are going at 5 times the overall growth rate of the rest, of the global insurance. We are 2x. We are growing 2 times the overall, even more now of the India's GDP. So you got to, if you believe in insurance, you believe in India, you got to believe in insurance in India, right? And India is there are multiple ways to segment, but the segment that kind of resonates very well with us is from folks at sort of iSpirit who kind of came in and segmented India into multiple segments, India 1, India 2, India 3. India 2 and India 3 especially is super underpenetrated for insurance, right? Because the reasons is because from access to affordability to being able to differentiate between kind of products, it's education, so many things, right? And that is where sort of technology can be best used. So API at the center of it, and Asif's to earlier's point, the heart of any insurtech is the API, right? So the API at the end of the day is a tunnel or a wire or a pipe or a rail, whichever way you kind of see it, between 2 different endpoints on the internet to communicate with each other, right? For data to flow between two different endpoints. And when you kind of leverage that over and over and into different sort of distribution channels and making the front-end experience very simple, what you're essentially helping to do is for Bharat markets to communicate with the insurance industry and vice versa at scale. In a language, pretty much with real-time sort of capabilities, right? Which typically is very different experience for insurance. Insurance used to be this heavy experience where agent came and sold a particular product. A lot of data exchange, lot of sort of information requested. It takes days to kind of compile that, go back to the underwriter, come back, sort of, revise all of that. To get a pricing itself, it could have taken days. Now it's a matter of microseconds, right? So with a right API call. That is the beauty of APIs, that at the end of the day, it is helping to standardize this particular entire value chain, this entire industry's value chain, by making the communication language and the protocol as simple and standard as possible. So if you look at the value chain itself, there is 3-pronged value chain, right? There is the consumption side or consumer, where people like you and I sit, the intermediary side or the distribution side, and then there's the underwriting or the supply side. So we've done some back of the envelope math and figured that there are more or less about 10 lakh different unique permutations that happen. So for example, I bank with, say, one private bank. That private bank has an RM. The RM sells a health insurance product with an assisted model from within a branch to me. And usually a bank tends to have a corporate agency license, and it ties up with about 9 different insurance companies in the back end, right? So this is this particular flow that I mentioned, assisted sale for one health insurance product being sold to a customer with a digital or phygital kind of a model from one insurance company in the back end is one permutation. Like this, there are about 10 lakh permutations in India, give or take, right? It's very sort of high level proprietary kind of estimates. So we could be it'll get more richer and granular as sort of the thesis emerges. But these are 10 lakh different variations or permutations in India. We are trying to standardize with one API call. similar to how say a Stripe did it, right? So Stripe got the entire payment infrastructure down to say a few lines of code, and the value proposition really was you take this, drop ship these lines of code, and essentially your payment's ready, right? Why can't we do that for insurance? So that is the journey that we are on, and Asif and team have been building some amazing tech to kind of to discover our own journey there. Over to Asif if he wants to add anything.
Yeah, so Chiran, you covered it pretty well. So like a couple of more points that I could add here. So traditionally, like the way we are looking at the insurance is changing a lot nowadays, right? So earlier we were looking at an insurance agent coming up with a lot of paper chew and like trying to fill a form and getting a signature, or like if you go to an online model, you are talking about a comparison by you send your requirements and you get like 10-15 different codes coming on your screen, right? So all of that getting shifted, right? So that is not suited for like a rural village in remote parts, right? So here, so a lot of the way the insurance distribution is getting is like a lot of sachetization is happening, right? So things are becoming very micro, small, which is easily consumable, very small price, right? Some insurance are sub 100 rupees range a lot of them, right? Giving you like a micro cover, which is very essential for you, right? The hospital cash has been like one of the major use case in such cases. For like about 200-300 rupees, you are getting your entire hospitalization covered, right? For a fixed amount, etc. So that has been one of so these kind of products are getting experimented on rural parts, right? And not just that, so there is the way so I'm sorry, sir, I just missed that part.
That's okay, not an issue.
Yeah, I can just
yeah, that can be taken care of in editing, no worries about it.
Right. Yeah, so what I was trying to say is like, so there is a lot of product creation is happening along the lines of hospital cash and very smaller micro products, and the distribution is also getting very thin, right? It could be your neighborhood like grocery shop selling insurances, right? So when you go there, I mean, you are getting a small kiosk where just by putting your Aadhaar number and like your fingerprint on it, and by paying a small amount at the counter, you are getting covered. So this, those kind of like very interesting use cases in terms of creating products and the distribution of insurance, both are getting experimented a lot, which is very useful to penetrate into the rural market of India.
Definitely. So as of now, I mean, we have seen a couple of interesting models, right, around what you said in the village area, in the rural area specifically. Let's say, for example, you might have heard of Link Stores. I think they were also looking to do something similar in the rural areas, and as well as there is a company called Hesa Global, which is also doing something similar, enabling social entrepreneurs in rural India to sell insurances and financial services product. So which product as of now, at this point of awareness of insurance in rural areas do you think is picking up a bit more? It's gaining popularity after, let's say, the COVID piece.
Definitely. Asif, you want to go?
No, I was asking whether you want to go for that.
Okay. No, definitely. I mean, right now, a lot of use cases are around health, right? So, and health is quite interesting because our rural market has a subsidy program, which is, government backed, Pradhan Mantri Bima Yojana. And there is on the crop side, and then there is on the health side as well. And then for COVID, particularly, there were some products that were introduced by the government, and these are subsidized products, right? So what ends up happening with subsidized products is implementation, while underwriting can be more straightforward and backed by subsidized capabilities, that brings down the overall pricing of the product by itself. The experience of being able to distribute the product, managing that product, as well as claiming from a customer experience perspective, because of the scale involved, can be quite massive. So there has been a fair amount of private insurance interest in rural markets as it relates to health insurance as well. Outside of that, the mandatory products like two-wheeler and sort of anything that covers things like farming equipment, tractors, so on and so forth. That has obviously is a mandated thing. Crop insurance, again, while it is heavily subsidized, is an interesting area of innovation overall. And then at the end of the day, life insurance as well, right? So people, a fair amount of consumers still think that life insurance is actually an investment product as against an insurance risk product, right? So that on the back of some on the pandemic and whatnot, the awareness is growing of what kind of risks do you kind of protect with the right kind of insurance product. So it's sort of, at the end of the day, a lot of insurance is actually concentrated in urban areas in terms of penetration, and there is a long tail that is yet to be discovered and protected appropriately outside of the subsidy programs in our rural markets. But the good news is digitization is driving that. So a lot of players that we were talking to, both on the distribution side as well as the underwriting side, who are talking about digital, two are now talking digital first or digital only, right? So which enables us to move very quickly when you have tech as your backbone.
Got it. Asif, anything that you want to add?
No, not to that point.
Okay, interesting question came up in my mind, Shreyans, when you were talking about automating the insurance value chain end to end. So out of the entire value chain, starting from, let's say, onboarding a customer to claim settlement, which of these journeys has been the least automated as of now, from what you've seen?
Yeah, so there is. I'll have Asif expand on it, and he's like he'll be the right person to kind of share more deeper insights. But at a very macro, superficial level, just think about your own purchase experience, right? Chances are that if you want an insurance product, you'll be able to buy it somewhere. You might not. I mean, chances are that you'll be able to download that policy. You have a digital copy of it and all of that.
Yeah.
Claims, extremely non-digitized, right? You still have to call your carrier, you still have, or sort of go through a TPA if it's on the health side, and there's a fair amount of back and forth that happens. So claims is an area of there is big gap as far as digitization is concerned, and our journeys there are just beginning, if you ask us, as an industry and a space, and it's a long way for us all to go, and it is a key area of growth for Discovery as well in terms of digitizing that space. And the beauty of it is that for us, thanks to the early inroads that we made in terms of the designing of the overall technology architecture by Asif and whatnot, we thought about everything from an API first perspective. Everything should be an API, right? So whether it is buy, manage, claim, whether it is assisted, DIY or embedded, whether it is a life or a non-life product, whether it is any of the insurance companies, at the end of the day, let's design everything with an API first mindset, right? That helped us kind of build the right kind of rails and the right kind of use cases for the right kind of consumer segments. So that is sort of the overall sort of the macro side of it. Asif can help go a little deeper on that.
Undoubtedly, claims is the one that is like the least digitized, right? I mean, the APIs are pretty much not available anywhere, right? But like Chiran said, when we started this, like we have envisaged that the claims also at some point in time the industry has to open up to that as well, right? So nobody can stop that progression. So we actually have built a claim intimation process like that. That's how much we could do at this point in time, right? Since this is not backed by the insurer directly, but there are channels that insurance companies open up to do offline claims. So what we did is like we created APIs and layer on top of this. So we take the information and like automate all of most of it, because we have the customer information with us, like if they have purchased it through us, and then send it to the insurance channels for them to take it forward. But from there, it is still completely completely an offline process, right? So we have even built a WhatsApp based claims experience. If you have purchased a policy from through some of the discovery channels, right? So you can go into WhatsApp, send a message to a particular number, and then initiate a claim process on some of this policies that you have brought in. So the claims by far has been the least APIs or the digitized process. And on the purchase side, there are some broken journeys till now, but that is getting plugged very quickly now. So there are things like, for example, if you have a car and the insurance is already expired, right? That needs to go through an inspection, right? So that some of that still happens through an offline, like some agent comes and visits and all those things. But there are like lots of experimentation happening, like through some mobile application, taking some photographs on it. So that is very quickly getting bridged. Those gaps, I'm sure, like that won't be there in a year or two from now. But the claim seems to be a challenge, but I'm sure that slowly we'll get there as well.
Sure, I think that makes a lot of sense. Over to you, Sagarika.
Yeah, thanks, Asif. So while Chirant was mentioning about health insurance, just have a quick question for you. Just last week, we bought health insurance for the company. So what we did was, Abhishant asked us to kind of see Konsa health insurance suits you and buy that, right? I have one colleague of mine that's exactly of my age, and we are buying the same health insurance, paying the same premium. The very next day, we went for a trek. He was able to climb the mountain 10 minutes earlier than me, which kind of, conveys the fitness level that he has is a little bit more than me. So wanted to understand, very interesting part of the insurance industry is the personalization of, insurance. So could you throw more light about how personalized insurance is so far, and kind of what is Riskovery doing to make it work?
For day zero, right? I think in terms of both where the industry can go in terms of depersonalization of risk products like insurance, which by definition need to have be super personalized, because as you mentioned, risk factors of two different individuals or two different businesses or two different sort of corporates or any of those are not the same. They are fundamentally different. We are all unique in that sense. So the risk, if the risks are different, the mitigation service for that from a financial overhead perspective, like insurance, should also be different, which means that they have to typically tend to be different pricing, right? And different coverages, different exclusions, different inclusions, all of that, which are particularly suited for the risks of the other insured, right? Or the to be insured in this particular case. So it's a no-brainer that the industry needs to go into that depersonalization space, and we are very, very, very early to be able to kind of do that. Still, a lot of products that are actually sold right now are products that are fairly standard products, which are are not priced by risk, but it's it's a no-brainer, and it is going to get there. The question is when, if not if. And the question also is to what degree, there is it's not required that personalization affect every part of the product universe, right? Because for a very small risks, right? For say someone purchasing say a consumer durable white good product, and say it's credit, it's on the back of credit, and there is typically most credit is actually linked with certain insurance as well. Does that need deep sort of variation in terms of risk characteristics to cover the loan, not the person itself? Maybe not. It depends on sort of the appetite of the risk underwriter to the distributor to the consumer, so on and so forth. The question could be maybe, but the larger point being that personalization is not the answer for every insurance product out there, right? There are some that are definitely need to be there and are not. Some sort of are getting there faster than others, and some that are unlikely to ever get there, because it doesn't make sense from a economics perspective, given the characteristics of the claims process and the amount of the claims and the loss ratios related to those products. May not make sense for an underwriter to actually segment it into multiple things and underwrite it with sort of expensive actuarial processes, right? So that is the overall sort of the macro side of it. So I don't know if Asif, you have any thoughts there to add.
No, at the moment.
Thanks. Just one, while we talk about personalization, what's the whole purpose of personalizing insurance apart from the difference in premium payment, etc.? As from a customer point of view, do they relate more to such products, or?
I think it ties back to your earlier question as well of the why. The why is very clearly because the risk factors are different. Just we're going to take very simple use cases. For instance, say two people traveling on a flight, right? So one could have a predisposition to multiple diseases that could be potentially triggered while on the flight, versus one very healthy person that may not have anything to do with it, but they're priced exactly the same, right? Their trip insurance is priced exactly the same. Just give you an example. More and more so personalization on the health side, because as you mentioned, two people's fitness levels may not be the same. So the why for it is very clear. The so what of it is that when you right price the risk, it helps in terms of better underwriting, which means that more. The entire underwriting sort of model works much better, much more predictable, much more scalable on the back of more covering the right kind of risks for the right kind of people, right, at the right kind of price points. So that equation works out much better from a insurance underwriting perspective, which means that there is more predictability in terms of overall growth of the insurance supply side or the manufacturing side, by basis of better underwriting principles, right, being used to qualify risks in the first place. So the so what of it is that it helps insurers to kind of underwrite better, the risks better. It helps the distribution fraternity to be able to enable the right or sell the right kind of products to the right kind of people at the right kind of price points. It helps the consumers to kind of from a perspective of feeling a sense of ownership against those risks which are uniquely being priced out for me, right? Why should I be paying, if I'm healthy, this shouldn't be a reason for me to pay the same kind of a health insurance cover that someone who's unhealthy to me. So I'm likely to buy an insurance product if it is right priced for me, for my kind of risks, as against something that is a little more standardized. So it's a win-win-win across the board, and that's what we think is the so what of personalization, because at the end of the day, this has been done in sort of other spaces of financial services, especially lending and all of that, where multiple sort of factors go into to determining the credit score, right? And everybody's score is different basis sort of our own histories and whatnot, and that is one data point that goes into that overall process. Why should insurance be any different?
Understood. Chirant, very interestingly, you talked about credit score. What do you think about insurance score as an indicator of while people are taking the loan or something?
Yeah, so it's a great question. Like, why isn't there an insurance bureau, right? Which the credit bureau is more about getting a score or basically standardizing the aspect of credit scoring a person or an entity against a particular use case on the credit side, which is fundamentally something that everyone can subscribe to, right? It is the bureau kind of does not differentiate or does not discriminate from that perspective, right? So why isn't there something like that on the insurance side? I think the fundamental reason is that there is no need for it to be right now. Outside of insurance companies being able to detect things like fraud and those kind of use cases, right? So those are sort of what we hear more than sort of anything else. But we think that there could be we could essentially help build that out, right, with the help of the ecosystem, and sort of we are making some early inroads there as well, because thanks to the pipes that Asif and team have engineered, right now we are seeing more than almost 100,000 API calls happening on our platform on an everyday basis. There's an enormous amount of data flowing through, right? So that's all rows, right? So you can pick the right kind of columns and sort of say potentially those columns at scale can become the bureau itself, right? For different use cases, right? So one will be for say fraud management, one could be from a selling perspective, one could be from a sort of risk pricing perspective. There could be multiple use cases, but I think there's a reason why it has not been there, because at this point in time it is not as important to solve relative to other things that are happening right now in the insurance world. Asif, anything to add?
Yeah, so not exactly like a credit score, but something more relevant to insurance at a end customer level would be like the right amount of insurance, right? Everybody required to have certain level of insurance to cover the kind of risks that they have, right? And so we typically call this like overinsuring, underinsuring, stuff like that, right? So like as a person, have you covered enough of your risks? There are risks that can be covered, there are risks that cannot be covered, right? Out of the risks that can be covered, have you covered enough? Right? So it's a very interesting question. So we could even have like that as a general metrics, saying that like how, if you're underinsured, how far you're underinsured? Are you like at 80%, at 60%, or if you're over, are you like at 200%? Right? So those, I think like that becomes very interesting for us also.
Sounds good. Also, a question to you about something that I have been very fascinated yet scared about is what are your concerns about the data security part when it comes to hyper-personalization of insurance products?
So the data, so the way these algorithms typically works, it's on an anonymized way, right? So whenever we do analysis of the data from a data science perspective, we don't expose the PII, right, which is the personally identifiable information, which can connect you back, and that is not very relevant or required. It's mostly work at a demographic level, right, or a behavioral level, which need not be connected. So always like the highest standard and care is taken about the data that we capture at our platform level, right? So we never let it out and expose. So and these models are created, like I said, on anonymized data, and after that we don't require that data anymore. I mean, then the algorithm get triggered on some of the parameters that it creates based on the data analysis that has happened, and then it works directly on you. So the data privacy is not, I mean, it's a concern, but it has been taken care well by taking enough care of like the way we store the data, right? It is completely encrypted. You're not able to, anybody won't be able to see that. And then when we analyze it, like we don't take the whole data out. We only take the relevant part of the data, which is also not able to connect back to a particular person.
Understood. So just to elaborate the question more, I think I was kind of in the direction of, say health insurance, if you personalize health insurance, you will be taking a lot of my data to be able to shape that up, right? So I was kind of in direction of that. What's the data security concerns out there?
Just to add to that, Asif, I'm so sorry. When specifically one specific company comes to my mind, I don't remember the name, but last year in Singapore FinTech Festival, there was a company that was selling watches, fitness watches, that would essentially automatically adjust your insurance premium depending on how often are you walking, how much are you walking, what is your water intake, what is your other vitals, and all of that. So in such cases, when the what is the your sensitive, personally identifiable information has an impact on your premium, how essentially it is still made to be completely data secure, and it is not. I mean, it is detached from your identity. How it is done?
That's
And
a great.
that, in fact, that particular company had kind of partnered with food delivery services to see what are you exactly eating. So yeah, continue, Asif.
Yeah, so that's a great example, and there are thin lines which cannot be crossed, like when we do things like this, right? But the overall approach, the right approach to take here, and that's what we have been taking at Discovery as well, is to not cross that particular line, right? And then keeping that completely anonymized. So even this example, if you take your heartbeat, how is it happening? How are you working out? And all of this data can be analyzed completely detaching you as a person from this, right? I mean, your identity need not be compromised when we analyze this data, right? This can be stored even while we store it, right? This can be stored in an anonymized fashion, need not be like stored against a particular person. So those kind of cares are taken in any system that is very serious about like personal information, right? I cannot comment about that company that you spoke about, but that's what we would do. That's what we have been doing to keep the person and data separate whenever there is sensitive data being used for recommendations and personalizations and things like that.
Got it. So is there a play on tokenization over here?
Understood.
Yes,
Okay, so
alright. Sorry.
Sorry, I just had one one interjection. So
Sorry,
is there a play on tokenization over here? When you talk about anonymizing the data, in such a scenario, do you tokenize it and it is completely isolated from the identity, or how does that specific piece work?
That's correct. So there is a transaction system where by regulation we are expected to keep your information, right? Because the policy is guiding to you, and then there are certain information that we have to keep to serve peace. And the system that does the depersonalization and analysis is typically kept separate, and the data exchange between these systems is always anonymized. There is no personal information even getting transferred to that side, right? Like the representative data is getting transferred.
Okay, fair enough. Over to you, Sabrina.
Yeah, so I couldn't help but notice that I think both Chirant and Asif said that API is the heart of insurance. Related things about API multiple times during our 1 hour podcast. Just one very basic quick question that what do you think about the traditional insurance players? Are they just on like in the future, are they just something that's on the back end while the front end, the new fintech companies? Your thoughts on that?
I don't think it is like future, to be honest, and that's has been happening even as we speak, right? So the modern way of distribution heavily, I mean, the distribution platforms are playing a role of connecting to the end customer, and the insurance companies who actually provide that particular product are becoming a source, right? A source for this modern platforms to distribute particular products. So that I'm sure like that is only going in a upward trajectory, right? The very nature of for some of these insurance companies, the very legacy nature of that, it doesn't allow them to move quickly. But now they are creating the APIs to basically expose their platforms, right? So on top of that, the distribution platforms using this better and better ways of distribution and enabling this, right? This I mean, be it embedded, be it like a POS kind of a journey, or a direct compare and buy stuff like any of that, right? So now the insurance companies are not required to spend the kind of effort to build that the whole ecosystem, right? They only need to expose and focus on creating the right products. Even there, like we are helping them to the data and the experience that we get, and then passing it back. But their focus more and more going forward would be like creating the right products, and the distribution would be primarily spearheaded by the distribution platforms. So that's how we are looking at it. Chiran, if you want to add something.
No, very, very complimentary thoughts, right? See, insurance is a push-based service, which means that there is a heavy reliance on the intermediary side or the distribution side to actually take products to market. Right now, also only I think 30% or so is direct distribution, which means that there is almost 70% or so happens via intermediaries, right? So. Because it is a push-based kind of a service, so that will sort of only get more sort of continue those kind of trends in our view. Only question is sort of it used to be very concentrated, and now it will get sort of decentralized with sort of technology coming in, right? So and again there will be sort of more players that will get concentrated on the back of technology and sort of because there tends to be from a distribution perspective as well, with an intermediary approach, winners typically tend to grab most of the market share and all of those perspectives. So we are slightly decoupled from that as an infrastructure player, right? So we are not really direct to market. We don't really work with any one particular insurance company. We work with myriad of insurance companies right now itself, close to 30 insurance companies that we kind of work with. So from our perspective, that kind of risks don't come. It actually plays well to our strategy. But overall, sort of, if you think about it, we have a very firm view of the world where we think that insurance should be just as ubiquitous as payments, right? There is a risk everywhere, right? And nobody can predict the future. And it's just about being able to, there are few risks that you will want to cover, few risks that you'll be okay living with, right? But for those that you want to cover as a consumer, you should be able to do that anywhere you want to. That's the future that we believe in, and we think that sort of by enabling insurance anywhere, that is one way to kind of do that on the back of APIization. So just to kind of very complimentary thoughts to Asif, I guess, but said in different words.
Thanks, Chiran. Thanks, Asif. I think that was a wonderful podcast. We can wrap it up. And, I think I came across Discovery 2 years back in 2019. That was my initial step with the fintech world. And I think I had to hear you pitching twice or thrice to be able to understand your model completely. But then you guys are doing an amazing job. Kudos to you. And I hope we get a better insured India. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks a lot, Chiran. Thank you, Asif, for your time. I think we really captured the essence of what essentially the future of insurance will look like with the APIification and all the aggregation that we have been doing. So looking forward to hearing from you guys, and looking forward to great things from you guys. Thank you so much for your time.